snowed in.
Yeah,
Are they supposed to get a bunch of snow?
yeah,
Sounds like it.
6 inches.
So you're here on WK?
No,
No.
You're going down tonight.
no, it's for 60 sub 4.
Marge is gonna explain WK to us.
I read a little bit about that in the packet and stuff, but yeah, I was gonna ask her a little bit more.
I was just wondering why Scott had.
Yeah, you got several.
I see they
Oh, yeah.
got a zoning administrator.
Yeah.
I'm here on the first one on the agenda.
Buena Vista got a zoning administrator.
DD 60 sub 4, correct.
That drain is no good.
The county,
I
the county
have
engineer was concerned.
I have been up there numerous times and
It's
the
not,
only,
it's
I
not
was
no good,
appointed
it's
about
just not very
10
good.
years ago.
the only
And for
option
4
there is
months.
to put a pump
To the
Oh, that's
county,
it.
I'm still,
Uh,
need a zoning.
we'll get into that, but I think,
Tyler's
They
not-
should really
Tyler's
put
not.
county tile on top of the ground and then.
No, no, that's, you're wrong.
Why not 129?
That's 129.
The DD 60 isn't much better.
no, it's pretty rough too. What we're
That's right.
fortunate though
Right.
is from what I can tell,
Talking about
the
that.
ditch was over excavated enough that there are some opportunities there. So,
Is there,
yeah, we'll get into that. We'll wait for March to.
those two drains. If you've never seen 129, it's worth looking at it, how it goes into Minnesota.
Yeah.
It's the only drain I ever seen where they didn't have to dig and put the tile in.
just roll it off the wagons and just set them there.
Yeah, they put a hump on it.
Yeah, right.
There's
Some
places
flags
that
that,
they actually put dirt on top of it to cover it. It's very, very shallow.
Okay.
some flags to warn you that it's there.
Speed bump.
Yeah, slow down when you go over this.
Don't drive over this with heavy equipment.
And then they did anyway, probably.
No, he's pretty good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's been really good.
Sometimes you get the change of a landowner in places and that's
Oh, I
all
didn't know that was there.
That's all she wrote.
Yeah.
That looks expensive.
Well, it's failing on the Iowa side in many places as well.
Yeah.
We just fixed another spot here this last fall.
Well, that's all we have to do is fix that.
Yeah, it's a bad system.
We will start with drainage.
Tyler, you're up.
And we have Mark Mergen on DD 60 first, don't we?
Tyler.
That's-
Tyler's here for that.
He is. It says Mark in here.
Mars knows
Marge put in the
everything.
request.
Yeah.
That's just make contact with me.
Really?
Mars knows everything.
Marge knows all about DD 60?
I put in the request.
If not, I'd happily present on it for you.
Are you gonna do it for Mark?
As long as she allows, yeah.
Go ahead.
All right, well, good morning all. I'm Tyler Conley with Bolton Mink here in Algona. Filing the report on Drainage District 60, sub 4. This is a petition that was filed to investigate a main tile improvement project. For reference, the main tile on the map up here is from this location here, following generally this line to the end of the main tile.
Who filed the petition?
The petition was.
Kyle Rowling was the start of it, and there was a lot of signatures.
Yeah, I have a copy of it here, I can pass around. It was Kyle Rowling, like Kyle said, the guy that started, but there is a number of signatures on there.
The report's in your board folder.
There was an informational meeting held on this in the latter half of last year where owners were contacted to come in and weigh their opinions on some probable projects. There was a lot of support at that time to move forward with investigating the main tile improvement at 3 different cost points. This district is located in Grant and Eagle Township. There is the main tile system, 7 lateral branches, 4 sublateral networks. All of the tiles flow to the main open ditch of Drainage District 60. The district was petitioned for and established between 1911 and 1913. There were some tile repair requests through the 40s. There was a cleaning of the open ditch in the 60s, and actually, interestingly enough, there was a petition for a main tile improvement in 1965 on the district that no action was taken on due to the proposed expense at that time. Since then, there's been no major work done to the system. A capacity analysis of the system was conducted. And, clicked the wrong one. Now we're going all the way around. It was found that, I can zoom in on this. The drainage district, the main tile is, as we find in a lot of these districts, undersized by today's drainage standards. The capacity of districts is measured in a drainage coefficient, and that is the amount of water in inches that can be removed in a 24-hour period of time. The majority of the main tile of sub 4 currently is at or below 0.15 inches per day. The current drainage standard is, what's recommended for areas with good surface relief is a ½ inch per day. So you're looking at about 30% or less of the current designed, current recommended design capacities. Because this is an improvement project, there will be some additional nuances to consider. The first is that any upstream wetlands that are in the district will likely be considered converted. Now, one thing that came in a little later than what the report was finalized at, we did send out wetland determination letters on the district. We had not heard anything back until after the report was finalized, but I did receive from the Goroskowski, I believe that's how it's pronounced, a series of wetland determinations that were certified from the NRCS for whether or not there were wetlands in the area. If you want to pass that around, the green is outlining all the area that they have that was considered prior converted. There were no wetlands in any of the determinations that were submitted. Now, it's not all of the district, as you can see when you get the map, but it is a decent portion, and some of the areas I was the most concerned about were shown up as prior converted. Second, for an improvement project that is different from a repair, repairs on drainage districts are mandatory. When the trustees are convinced that there are needed repairs, those are, the code says you shall repair, not that you can or may consider it. For an improvement project, there's differences. Those are not mandatory, and they can be stopped by, one of the ways they can be stopped is by a process that's known as remonstrance. That is, if at the hearing, at or before the close of the hearing, the landowners object, and in total, those objections It's a majority, over 50% by number of landowners, and in aggregate, they own 70% of the acres that stops a project from continuing, if it is an improvement project. So that is something that on these improvements is very important to take into consideration, and I have a spreadsheet that at the time of the hearing, as objections, if objections come in, they can be added and tabulated for remonstrance. And third is that improvement projects trigger reclassification. Reclassification would be the redistribution of the benefits based on the new project that is installed. This is to account for any inequities that a new system brings about, as well as it's a good opportunity to solve additional inequities, one of which is considered the largest is every facility not having its own schedule. And at this time, I believe in the district, there is only the 60 sub 4 schedule, correct me if I'm wrong, Marge, for this, currently as it stands, which would mean that even if a project isn't done, work that's done anywhere on the system, everyone pays for it, whether or not they benefit from those laterals or not.
Which is not the way the code currently reads.
What's that?
That the code specifies the benefits should be.
Right, if a reclassification is done, it's fine to sit as it is, but as they're done, as you benefit from different facilities, you should pay for them as that benefit arises. So, that all works together to say the current state from court cases that have been fought on annexation and remonstrance and on reclassification, they have, where it sits right now is that those that have the right of remonstrance are those that are in the district to be benefited. So on this map here, that would mean all of the lands, the dotted boundary is the current assessment schedule. Those are the lands that are in the district currently. The green outline is what the original boundary was drawn on the original plat and then digitized by the Iowa DNR. The red boundary is an assessment of the watershed that we did as a preliminary for the capacity analysis, and also to see how close that would resemble to the original boundary. All that to say that any of these lands that would be benefiting from the system but are outside of the current assessment boundary, unless they were to be annexed in prior to the consideration of remonstrance, it would be my recommendation that they be notified that the work would be occurring, but they would not have the rights of objection and to be tallied amongst the remonstrance acres. Just something to keep in mind on a project like that. If work is to be done, there would be consideration for any sort of crop damages, compaction, all things that would be settled at the time of completion. There are cost estimates included in the report. There was at the informational meeting, there was a request to review the half-inch drainage coefficient, the 3/4-inch drainage coefficient, and the 1-inch drainage coefficient. So in those orders, for the half-inch drainage coefficient for the tile sizes required, the largest being a 54-inch. The estimate was $3,300,000 for construction. The non-construction costs, as well as any of the road crossings that occur, are the payment of such is the responsibility of the secondary roads department. That is not an accessible cost to the drainage district. So those are broken out, but they are not added to the totals. With the non-construction for the half-inch, you're looking at just over $3,700,000. Or on the per acre, you're looking at $1,466. That's a per acre cost. In a reclassification, the only thing I can tell you with any certainty is it would be very rare for anyone to pay actually that amount for their actual assessment. The classification and reclassification all takes into account the varying degrees of benefit and alters what that per acre cost is for those that benefit more and those that benefit less. For the 3/4, it was just shy of, for construction, just shy of $4 million, $3,986,000. With the non-construction costs looking at $4,440,000. And then for the 1-inch, with the largest tile size being a 72-inch, you're looking at $4,760,000, with the non-construction of $5.25 million. So those were the cost estimates on that. With that in mind, with the range of tile sizes that would be required as part of my report with the recommendations, I recommend that landowners and the trustees consider the 1/2 inch and the 3/4 inch. I think the 1-inch in this instance is excessive.
And we'll talk about that more at the hearing, of course.
Right, yes. Also in the report, we have the farm program compliance. That is dealing with the conversion of upstream wetlands. We have sent a wetland determination letter to all the landowners. As I pass that map around, we received one back for a decent portion of the district, but not all of it. If it is determined that any upstream wetlands have been converted as a side effect of an improvement project, the penalties can be severe to that landowner unless mitigation work is done to replace the form and functionality of those wetlands, or if the wetlands are left unfarmed, the converted wetlands are left unfarmed. The current price of the Iowa Agricultural Mitigation Bank is $15,000 an acre for credits for wetland mitigation. Again, that doesn't, what's that? It doesn't, not to date. I have not been informed of any. I have not. There's all prior converted I've seen, and nothing else has been brought to my attention. So that's from the landowners' compliance, and it's important that they let us know that, so that if there are any, there can be consideration for district participation in the mitigation of those wetlands. as far as from the district's compliance, as of the 30th of December 2022, the EPA had again revised its waters of the US definitions. Now, in very simple terms, considering jurisdictional wetlands, anything that has shallow connections, essentially, anything,
Subsurface.
any shallow subsurface conveyance is being considered adjoining and therefore jurisdictional. That, since 2015, had been, the waters of the US have had a stay on it. That new ruling after the publication would take effect 60 days from the publication date, or right around March 1st, the earliest in March. There are different considerations that come with that. Essentially, if it is to stay in place and not be challenged or not be changed, any project, really any project, would require joint applications to the Iowa Department of Natural Resources and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for their permitting and approval. One of the biggest potential hurdles there is the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, their policy of avoidance and minimization. So, in essence, making a district prove that what it wants to do is more of a requirement rather than just an enhancement, a willing enhancement of the facilities. So the potential options there are to wait to see how this new rule impacts the projects of this magnitude, wait to see if it is challenged, which in my opinion it is almost a certainty that it would, very similar to the 2015 ruling, or to begin the proper paperwork of compliance right from the beginning. With the 40 days of required notice for, the 40 days from filing with the 20 days of prior notice, that would put this hearing at the 28th of February, correct? March, so it would be very, very close to the implementation of those new rules. Things to keep in mind as this goes to hearing, and we'll see how that plays out with the new rules. We also include in here more for the landowners, a water quality section for their potential buy-in. There's a lot of funding going around right now for different practices. It's not anything the district really has any obligation or powers to implement currently, but it's always something we feel is very important for landowners to consider. So, with that, I went very fast through that. Go ahead.
That dredge ditch has no flow, the water just sets in it a lot of the time. So are you gonna put this tile outletting in the bottom of that?
And actually I can go to the preliminary plans. It appears from our survey data that at some point in the past, that ditch was rather significantly over excavated.
Or is it over excavated all the way?
And that
It was recently cleaned out, that mile where this dumps in, that was cleaned out, I'd say approximately a year ago. So there may be potential for more repair work downstream from that if it's needed, but I've not gotten a request to that effect yet, so.
We reviewed the first mile downstream, from looking at our different options. It's a little, on this, the 1/2 inch and the 3/4 inch would be about 6 inches up off the bottom. The 1 inch would be right at the bottom, and even that, it gets kind of tight up in the upper sections. That was why my recommendation for consideration left out the 1 inch tile. But these are the 3 sizes stacked right on top of each other here.
So then you end up with at least 3 foot of cover all the way?
Yes. Even on the, I shouldn't say, I think the 1 inch has at the very least 2.5 feet. But again, for its price and the amount that you'd have to kind of sneak it in. Now, this also isn't final design. This is preliminary as far as the ability to, is it feasible? Yes, all of them are feasible. Obviously, this would go through the final design process. One of the biggest potential changes I see is essentially the S curve in this that crosses the secondary roads department quite a few times.
Yeah, there'd be 3 crossings within.
I think that could be straightened out and things could be just as adequately served with smaller branch lines, not having that significant crossing expense to the secondary roads department. Something that I would definitely have to discuss with Doug as far as the involvement there, but that's just, for instance, that's one of the things that would be looked at. There are other areas that are low lying that you would probably, they were put there originally because it was all hand dug or manually dug in, and now you could more easily with equipment get it in deeper areas that are just to the side of those low spots. So, but as it all sits, as it all is right now, it is all feasible, it would all work.
Well, some of that old tile isn't very deep in them lawns.
No, it's,
I mean, it's toe kickers.
yeah, oh yes, yeah, it's, but with the up sizes and a little bit of decreased grades, you are able to get your appropriate cover.
We have no grade on some of it.
Yeah, no, I know. The lower end, that's why you're at the 54 and the 60 and the 72 inch, because it's at it's 0.06.
0.10,
Well, yeah, I mean, it's
0.08.
it's under a tenth for sure in locations. So
I've seen some under a tenth. That's really no grade.
right, yeah. No, I agree. That's why you see the sizes that you see.
0.30.
The district does slope up as it goes, but.
Just the challenge of the territory.
Yep.
Well, for today, it's acknowledging the report, setting time and date for hearing, right?
Yes, and that's where I was going with that, with the 40 days before the hearing can be had, with newer board members acting as their roles as trustees here. I wanted to formally extend an invitation for any additional questions or any more background information on this district or at least the other one that we're working towards completion here in the spring. Anytime, feel free to stop up at our office here in town. Be happy to go through information and all that with really anybody, newer members, the older members. I know Kyle and Roger have stopped in from time to time too, so it's no burden at all that way. Happy to do it. But yes, today is just a tentative acceptance and setting a date and time for the public hearing.
You were talking February 28th for that?
Yes, Marge and I had emailed about that being feasible.
Yeah, I think that would work good with the WOTUS rule as well. We'd probably have some sort of idea by then, so.
Probably not.
Well,
If it's gonna be challenged, we would probably know about that.
Yeah.
Well, it's gonna be challenging.
well, yeah, that almost with certainty, it's
Yeah,
gonna
I know it's gonna be challenged, but.
You won't have a say for that. The last time it was challenged, it was in 2015, and it never really did see the conclusions.
Yep.
So I would entertain a motion to accept the report and schedule an official hearing for February 28th.
So moved, time, you want 10, or what would you guys have in mind? 10?
I didn't have a particular time. Any time that day works for me.
I'd say 10.
10 o'clock?
Location, you think we'd be okay to have it here?
The informational meeting worked fine
Yeah.
in this location. I think.
So,
I think-
10 in the boardroom.
Okay.
On the 28th.
I have a motion for DD60 sub 4 to 10 o'clock on February 28th. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second. Whacker. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, motion carries. I'd appreciate it if you take a peek a little further on in that dredge ditch to make
Yes.
that your flow lines are actually gonna work.
Yeah. For further than that that mile,
That 1 mile
I
has just been cleaned.
I'm now thankful for the rain. I will go out and see how things
I
are.
think you could just look at it now.
Oh yeah. I think just with the weather we've had, it's gonna tell me all I need to know if I
Right.
go, if I,
Want to do that before Wednesday.
oh yeah, no, that's a today project,
thing,
probably, yeah.
I don't know if there is or
Well, you'll be able to see if there's water setting and then all of a sudden nothing but reeds.
not.
Yes,
And it might just need some more cleanup,
Yeah.
cause I have a feeling the rest of it probably needs attention.
I just don't wanna
put a new Cadillac
$3
up.
million tile in and then not have it work.
Right, yeah, put a nice new Cadillac up on the upper end of something that it can't pass.
Right. Then that makes us look like we're not very intelligent.
I don't want that for anybody. You guys, me, anybody, so. Yes.
Marge, or you got wrote down about 129. We have a petition in front of us.
Do you want me to talk on that or you want Marge?
Yeah, well, yes, that's a long time.
Yeah, so I've known Jeff for quite a while, but he had gotten me contact with Justin Anderson from Faribault County, that reached out to me in March as well here this fall, winter. And they are looking at repairs on the Minnesota side initially. But we do not have an agreement for the tile system on 129, we have an agreement for the ditch that it dumps into eventually. But, in conversations with Jeff primarily, but I know he knows his neighbors and friends around the area that way. He said they would be more more so entertaining an improvement project. They would settle for a repair if it was the complete line, if it was on Minnesota and Iowa side, because a repair on the Minnesota side alone does not do them benefit. They're having constant issues on the Iowa side. So, in regards to that, he had asked like what steps would need to be taken, and I said the petition form would be the start of the paperwork, so to speak. But we can use that to appoint an engineer and, kind of get the ball rolling in that regard. So he had sent over, signed petition and some comments in email there that he said to share with everyone, so that's all in the packet. You can see the petition signed by a couple people that way, so, I guess.
So, what's his plan, or what's the plan on the Minnesota side, cause that pile just junk?
So that's gonna be a substantial conversation, but we'll need to work with them to see what options are available and how to proceed through them. I know right now they're leaning towards a repair, but part of that hinges on whether we're participating in that. So,
If we do a repair in Minnesota, do we have to put a filter strip on both sides of that dredge ditch, or is there one by now?
I don't know, that would be something on their side. And I was gonna get to it, but Spencer had called me the other day as well and
Then we'd
visited.
have to pay for buying the land on both sides of the dredge ditch in Minnesota?
No, I don't know about that.
Yeah, Minnesota does have requirements for buffers along all their open ditch facilities. This is it is a tile system that continues all the way down to the current county ditch 41. 41 was cleaned out in 2018 and 2019, they finished in that timeframe. We are the engineer that's been working with Faribault County up there on their drainage projects. If it's an improvement and initiate it from the Minnesota side of things, you will have to be following on the improvement aspect, what is the current requirements up in Minnesota. They will have regulations from the state side of things in regard to no increase in peak flows if it's on an improvement side of a project. However, this is outlined into an open ditch that was not improved, so the drainage authority is gonna have the ability to do some negotiations in regard to if they have to limit any of the flow aspects, especially because a large portion of the watershed is in Iowa. So Minnesota can't force you to do things in Iowa, but at the same time, you can't do improvements all the way down to 41 without doing joint work with the Minnesota Drainage Authority in Faribault County. It's a tile system, so there's no buffer strip aspect that you'd be looking at in regard to the improvement on the tile system. But this is going to be one of those situations where, you know, you have an outlet agreement that I believe that you are being charged, 129 is being charged a certain dollar amount for the open ditch of
Just
41.
one ditch, yeah.
Yeah, this would take, basically, you're gonna have to to move this forward, you're gonna have to have basically a joint board type discussion between the Drainage Authority, Faribault, and Iowa, your board, obviously, and.
And I've already had some conversations with Dustin about that.
Okay, and, you know, a little bit of the history on this 129 too was Jacobs, or McClure did a study back in 2012 on it. Obviously, it has a very limited capacity. Obviously, your knowledge on it, Kyle, that there's been a lot of repairs that have been necessary, shallow tile system. So one of the, major things here is going to basically I would recommend that you do a preliminary engineering study and bring in the discussions between Minnesota and Iowa together to lay out what Minnesota is gonna require from their side of things. And definitely, it looks like if they're gonna do any kind of improvement on the Minnesota side, you might be evaluating the whole system. And, obviously it's lacking in capacity, it's basically shallow in cover, and you're gonna need to do a full, in a sense, evaluation of the system for an improvement. There is what they call an east and, you have what's called the east and the west main, but the west main outlets into the east main before it goes to the open ditch. Since we had done the 41 project, I do have an overall plat that gives you, for visual purposes, gives you the ability to see what's all in this. I could leave one here for Jack also and stuff, but so my intent today was to basically pass on some information on the Minnesota side of things. Obviously, I did have the opportunity to introduce myself to Joshua and Carter. This facility is located between Mankato and, here. We have our staff in Mankato we have a very large water resources staff in our Mankato office. We have water resource staff obviously serving this area from Storm Lake. And that's where I'm from again, is the Storm Lake office. Spencer, had talked to Kyle yesterday to give him some background of what we know on the Minnesota side of things here on this facility.
They're gonna have viewers like every other project.
Yes, that would be one of the things that would have to be discussed if they're gonna require a viewer, cost benefit ratio, analysis, to do the improvement across. It is possible that they would allow, if there's no assessments from 129 gonna be occurring in Minnesota, that, in other words, 129 is paying for the improvement all the way down to the open ditch, but not assessing any cost back to lands in Minnesota, that you could avoid the viewer situation.
I don't think we would set it up that way. I've had a couple conversations with Dustin and, I don't know if it's appropriate to really get into all those details right now.
Sure.
But, I think a lot of it would be, and I don't even know if I'd say we should have like a engineer's survey on the initial thing right away. I think a lot of it is getting our initial basis of some conversation and, getting a game plan going forward and then coming up with a path that way. I think there's a lot of options on the table, but we need to evaluate what process would work the best for everyone.
And then I'm full agreement, because, you need to, really have, we could act as the facilitator from both the Minnesota and Iowa side here of those communications with the Faribault Board and obviously yourselves to basically get an evaluation of what's available and what they're gonna require from the Minnesota side of things.
If you change the design in Minnesota, in other words, the route, is that possible to do?
Oh, yeah, I mean, they would, they would consider that if there was a better route for the tile system, you know, that could be evaluated.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that need to be worked on yet and
Sure.
go through the process, but.
So what,
And then, well, the other thing would be is, as Tyler had mentioned, is the WOTUS rules. You know, obviously, that aspect, that's gonna play a part also with what takes place over here in the next year, and seeing if that is gonna affect that. Most, if the WOTUS rule change goes as it is, Minnesota definitely will not be accepting NRCS wetland determinations under, for those determinations. Iowa, most likely. We don't know if the Corps will continue to accept NRCS's determinations. They have been in the past, but that may also change. So, yes, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to this. We again are expressing our interest to continue to work with you over here also. And we know that you do distribute your work between firms, and we want to express our knowledge on the Minnesota side here.
Yep, and I appreciate that, and I was going to share what Spencer had said, but since you were here, that kind of fulfilled that anyway. As I had discussed with him on the other project, which we currently have in construction right now on 60/1, McClure is engineer on that. And with all of our negotiations with Minnesota back and forth that way, it was definitely a struggle having a, company that was not located here working on that, and I think there's potentials to do things a little differently and do things better on another project like this. But I visited with Tyler about this because of the potential that I knew this was coming up, and I guess if he wants to speak to anything, you're more than welcome, but with their offices in Minnesota and stuff as well, I think the landowners would appreciate having the ability to come visit with the engineer one-on-one in Algona. That was definitely an issue that was brought up to me by landowners on 60, the north end of the county doesn't get to Algona as much as the middle or the southern third, obviously, but most people in this county come to Algona at some point in time, regularly or semi-regularly, and I think there's a large advantage for us as board members, specifically myself, and the landowners of the district to be able to come down here and visit with someone in the office that's working on the project here in town, so. My recommendation would be to appoint Bolton and Mink on this. We've got a great relationship with them on multiple projects, some that are in the works, some that have been completed. And I think this one, especially with the Minnesota components, that will be a challenge. I would feel more comfortable that direction. So, I guess I would make a motion to appoint Bolton and Mink as engineer on 129.
so, a little more clarity, what do you want? You want them to move ahead and do an engineering study? A little more clarity on what you want your motion to be.
I don't know that we should have more specifics on that this time. I mean, I think that can be handled with
Do you want
communication
informational meetings or with Minnesota
and.
and
Yeah,
Iowa?
I would say we'll have to have informational meetings, I would say, possibly even actual public hearings, but I think we need to start with a lot of conversation up front. So I think just a general appointment and then handle that as the situation.
So they're not gonna do a study is what I'm getting at.
No, I think that would probably be in the works, but there's
I kinda,
steps in front of that.
I kinda want it in a motion so that we know what you're expecting out of.
Well, the petitioners are expecting a report, that's what they're asking for, but I think prior to the report coming, there's groundwork that can be laid to do a better job and have a better finished product.
I think, you're relying on outletting into Minnesota, so we have some work to do before we do a report and spend a lot of money, is my point.
We definitely do, and I would completely agree with that, but I don't know that you can clarify that in a motion right now.
Well, I think,
Because if you get things working together, it would make sense to continue and,
Would it be best to make a motion for our participation in the preliminary and, beginning conversations, and from the decisions made there, work towards completing an engineer's report?
well, and that's where I don't know how you want it written, because the petition requires an engineer to be appointed, so it would have to get to a report at some phase. Unless we cancel that out, but I don't want to send, irregardless of the firm, I wouldn't want to send someone to just go do a bunch of studies, because there's work that should be done before that to do it justice.
I would recommend, that you just state it as a preliminary engineer's report to do an evaluation, with both Minnesota and Iowa in regard to
I
this.
think so.
Yeah.
Do evaluation, and then the report can come after that.
Yeah, that'd be fine for language,
Okay, say that again.
We're doing an evaluation on
a preliminary engineer's report.
DD 129 to see if it's feasible to continue the two-state drainage situation.
All of that in the motion.
Yeah.
I don't think you put all that in the motion, because, I mean, the water's already going into Minnesota, it's not like we have a lot of options the other direction.
If we just put 2.0 and make this engineer for
Preliminary.
DD,
Okay,
no, as engineer for DD 122, 129, Iowa Preservation preliminary engineer's report.
Yeah, I would think
Okay.
that'd be good.
do I have a second, Mr. Becker's motion?
I'll second.
Wagner. Any more discussion on
I speak to the fact that, as you have worked with us before, you obviously, Storm Lake, we are within 80 miles from there. This facility is gonna be, within an hour from the Mankato side of things. And you obviously know that we are willing to travel over here to meet with any given landowner on the issue. You will have ISG involved from the Minnesota side of things, because Faribault County will require basically an engineer from that side, and that will, I guess, give you the assurance that it will be ISG that will be working from the Minnesota side of things here. To me, it'd be better to have one firm to facilitate this from both sides, because we got the expertise on both sides.
it? My question is, are we going to spend more money by having two engineer firms
That was my question too.
instead of just one?
Tyler, do you wanna speak to some of your?
We have
capabilities that way? Because
Minnesota drainage experts as well, and there's, we talked with Kyle, Minnesota County had indicated that they were well aware of us. We're not strangers in Minnesota, and they would certainly have a choice up there as well. Ultimately, in any of these appointments, it comes down to your comfort level and who you think best fits the situation. Obviously, it'd be bad at my job if I didn't, if I didn't say that we were also interested in this, and certainly not looking to, I wouldn't be here and advocate for it if I thought that it was going to put anyone in a bad situation or receive subpar engineering work or anything like that, so.
I haven't been here very long and I don't know, I haven't been able to work with you guys much, but just from the standpoint, it still didn't quite answer the question as far as how, will it be more costly? Being that Ivan will most likely, our ISG, I should say, will most likely be representing the Minnesota side of things. Would, not that you were bad at your job,
I
you were
don't
bad
see
at
it.
or anything.
No, I don't see it as
Parker, I think I can answer that a little better. There is substantial differences on the Minnesota versus the Iowa side as at the county level on what they're prepared to do. Minnesota has more technical staff, so a lot of the things that they don't have the full ability to do quite what ISG and Bolton and Mink do for the top level of engineering. But maybe the simplest way to describe it would be the support staff under the engineers, they have those people employed at the county level already. So Faribault County has already done study work and that sort of stuff, so to speak, on their side already. And they don't have an engineer on it right now. So they could choose ISG, they could choose Bolton and Mink, that's up to their decision. But regardless of that, I don't know that any additional expense would be incurred, because once it gets to that point, they've already got a majority of the work done. And from my conversations with Dustin after that, it would be, especially on the improvement side, if we go down the repair side, I don't know if they need an engineer at all. They might need for the final signature or something, I'm not crystal clear on that procedure, but I think a lot of the work that we have done on the Iowa side by engineers is actually encompassed by their county employees anyway. So I don't think there'd be additional cost. And it might even be a benefit to have different firms, because like on 4 Lat 11, we had McClure on that, but with the private landowner that wanted to change the ditch, we had them get a second opinion to verify that things were up to par and kosher that way. So I don't think having two sets of eyes looking at it is a bad position to be in.
My only question is, if Minnesota doesn't agree, and are you gonna have 129 Iowa farmers pay for the whole improvement?
No.
So it won't happen unless
And that's,
129 in Minnesota wants to do it.
well, that's where I think there's a lot of conversations and there's a lot of groundwork that needs to be dealt with before you get to full report and all that sort of stuff. I think but for our side's benefit, the conversations that they're looking to have in Minnesota that involve details that their county staff handles regularly is more than our county staff handles regularly. So that's where I feel it'd be beneficial to have an engineer involved for our side a lot earlier than their side, because the conversations are substantially different.
Oh, we've been through all this before with 129, so I'm a little apprehensive about spending a lot of money and then not doing it like we've done before.
Correct,
So,
and now
two
that,
engineer firms turn bills in, I'm a little apprehensive about it, but
well, we've already paid McClure and gotten
nothing.
nowhere.
Right.
So that's part of the reason for a change as well, but
Well, it wasn't because the McClure's did a bad job, it's because the farmers didn't wanna do it, and we couldn't gain anything in Minnesota at that time. They wouldn't let us change it.
and now we have,
Currently Minnesota contract.
requests from Minnesota.
It was Minnesota last time that threw a monkey wrench in it, not Iowa.
Yeah, so I think
So
there's
don't blame
potential
the
for a lot.
engineer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's all their fault.
First time
but
I've ever heard that.
A fact is a fact.
But it's gonna be more complicated than any standard project in Iowa. The border adds a significant level of involvement to it, and we've seen that on 60/1. And that's where I feel more comfortable with Bolton and Mink with the closer geography we have that way for us and landowners.
In past history, it only took me 7 years to get the dredge ditch cleaned through the Elmore Golf Course.
It's tough, it's tough up there.
It was a battle, so. How you started, let's make sure we started right. So that's your motion.
Yep.
You wanna read the motion back, Mark?
To appoint Bolton and Mink as engineer for DD 129 tile improvement and to complete a preliminary engineering report.
Thank you. Did we have a second on it by Mr. Whacker? I remember. Any more discussion? Hearing none, do a roll call vote, please.
For Knapp?
Yes.
Wactor?
Yes.
Stecker?
Yes.
Jerks?
No. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for
Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. See you before, I'll see you on the 28th. I will get, notice information to you, Marge, for that, hearing on that.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you, Ivan.
Yes, nice meeting you.
Are you head down to that drainage conference yet today? Or you-
Spencer is down there.
Yeah, that's what he had told me about.
Yeah. So, I will, again, I'll just, give new members a couple cards here so that you can have contact information. Here's one for myself, and then Spencer Peck is, also out of our Storm Lake office and would be involved with drainage over here.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, Ivy.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda, we have Winnebago County and Berlin County for joint drain WK 68-136, and they found inequities in the second row parcels. Do you know any more about that, Mark, other than that?
That's what
And
they
they-
sent to us and then requested that we, have a motion to reclassify it, they'll take care of it. With, Jacobson, Western County will not have any additional costs, they'll do this, it's just saying the formality.
Okay.
Yeah, I did see that in there, that they'll reclassify, no additional cost, same commission.
So-
And they'll use the same commissioners that they did before, so we appointed. You didn't that did it before.
So can we, make that all in one motion? I'm assuming, so we'll have a motion to have Jacobson Westergaard do the reclassification on JDWK 68-136.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Motion by Stecker,
One second.
second by Knapp. Any discussion? And to appoint.
Doug, did you have something?
I'm curious, is this Cassuth County secondary roads or Winnebago?
Winnebago, their city, there's some towns that they had, and they were the hard surface, and they applied it all to their secondary road in Winnebago County.
So
But
this
they're-
has nothing to do with Cassuth County
But they
secondary
will look
roads?
at Cassuth County secondary road also to see if there's any inequities, but
Okay,
We don't have a whole lot.
no,
Yeah, it's
Doug,
all-
we don't have a lot of roads on that.
it's just rural
yeah,
areas.
it's an open ditch and then there's a main tile.
yeah, but I mean, all of our secondary roads in that drainage district are assessed. I mean, they're all
Right.
a portion of
So
it.
so I would imagine they'll review them to make sure they're accurate, but there may not be any changes.
Well, I guess that's my question, is this is brought up because they found some irregularities in Winnebago County secondary
Correct.
roads, not
Yeah.
Cassuth County.
Correct.
Okay, very good.
I have a motion on the floor to approve reclassifying
And to appoint him.
and to
Yeah.
appoint Kenny Euban. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimous. Next, we are to request return DD 165 to supervisors as trustees. I have a letter here signed by the current trustees. And that should be sufficient. We will be the trustees by default, but we still need the motion.
And is that, do we need to clarify that this is going in the record or anything, or just that we're accepting their letter? How do you want that?
We're accept their letter and take over as trustees for 165. That's what I think we clarified, Marge. I would make the motion to accept their letter and take over as trustees for 165,
I'll say.
and then have that filed in the drainage record.
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimous.
Should I have voted no since it's in my area?
Yeah. I think you should have.
Well, it's a missing opportunity.
Yeah. Oh, well. Let's see. We are up to Cassup County Auditor.
I gotta finish writing, just one second.
Everybody run off, wage agreement, secondary roads one.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Okay, who on here is on the EMS board? Can I meet with you after the meeting?
Yes.
I've got some information about the EMS study, from my auditors and from the state auditor's office.
Good.
And then I just got an email this morning from Barb Smith from the city of Algona. And she is wondering if any of you would be interested in meeting with House of Representatives Stone and Hills and Senator Rowley about the property tax reform bill that's currently in the House Ways and Means Committee on March 18th.
Yeah, because I
Are they gonna have a public forum here, or is that just a meeting with them?
She says she's trying to get some time before or after the public forum to meet with the three of them.
Okay,
So
yeah,
she's trying to
I'll-
get some,
Yeah, I'll be at that.
I've been talking.
Okay, so-
Goof,
so,
I mean, just.
Are you guys interested, or?
March 18th, right?
yeah,
March 18th.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah, we'll
You're gonna put it on the agenda then.
And I will probably discuss with them before that.
she hasn't set a time yet. She's just wondering if you guys would be interested. So we'll see, I'll put it on there for now, it's tentative. She must have that date wrong, 'cause that's a Saturday.
Well, that's the
No,
days
that
the
would be
legislators
before.
usually wanna meet,
That would be correct.
yeah.
And I know I talked to one of them, they mentioned the forum, and I don't remember if that's the date or not, I'd have to look back. Sure. But it probably
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're usually Fridays or Saturdays.
I think they're almost always in
They're
Saturday.
mostly Saturday, yeah. I know they've done some other places on Friday.
Sure.
Okay, and then, I got notified that we have a request for a special election. It's from North Cassuth Schools, which Emmett County will be the control county, so I'm probably gonna request that they do that election for us as well, so, that's the simpler way for them and for us to do it, so.
You don't know polling in place in this way.
No, well, in our county,
I don't know if it's Bancroft would be, so they might have to have Bancroft too.
I don't know, we'll have to.
They'll have to go.
Is that for reorganization?
No, it's a couple, I think,
Oh, okay.
but I haven't read it off, so I don't
Okay.
know.
They might have two locations.
So,
Bancroft's part of
I'll, be working on that. Reading that, and working on that this next week, so. Well, and then that's all I have.
Sounds like fun.
Anything for next week?
I don't know, I'm not been here long enough to know.
How was vacation?
Good, it was good.
Should have
So,
stayed on vacation.
He came back to this.
Yeah, he came back to this. I don't know.
I know, next week at 9 o'clock, we're gonna meet with Carissa and business owners about the parking lot at the old UBC building.
Yeah.
And 10 o'clock, we'll be meeting with Roger Fisher and George Sandy about courthouse security. And then the 25th, negotiations.
You got the 25th, we're gonna do negotiations. You're gonna put that on the calendar out there.
It's already up.
Good.
So,
Carter, do you have anything?
I guess with Tammy, is there a way to get on a list of when my boards and committee meetings are?
I have no idea, I have no contact with them, the
Oh,
supervisors
contact.
have never given me any
Oh,
of that
okay,
information,
okay.
so I have
I was just
no,
told I would receive an email. Okay, so
So
do I
I-
need to get in touch with them then?
I don't know how that works,
Oh, I-
because I don't have any
Okay.
information on any of
Really
that.
doesn't go through Tammy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine.
So,
Cause usually they notify you,
Sure.
and until, I'll visit with you after.
Okay.
Are they gonna notify our personal emails or county emails?
County.
Okay, cause I saw somewhere I had my personal email was listed as a contact.
well, it might have been before you took
Yeah.
office, so.
Okay.
Because
Yeah, we
that's
all
the
had
only
that
email you
4
had
years ago,
before
too.
office, so.
Back up to the 25th, you said that's when that bargaining is happening?
Correct.
I thought we had said 1 PM on Tuesday. And
Well,
then that
that was
Wednesday was
the
going to
original.
be a backup date?
And it was a backup date that Renee chose.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know
so-
I wasn't here, I was just told the
Now, she
25th,
did
that's
say
when
that
it
that
was.
is a definite date.
We were told that Tuesday was not set in stone, it was just a potential day, but it might be that Wednesday as well, so.
That's
Yeah.
what she said on the phone.
Yeah.
Yep, so it's either that Tuesday or that Wednesday, we don't know for sure yet.
It's Wednesday.
I
It
was
is
told it's
Wednesday?
Wednesday at
Okay,
1
Doug
o'clock.
said Wednesday.
That's what Doug said
Okay,
too.
I didn't, yeah.
So Tuesday is not, no meeting on Tuesday afternoon.
That was at 11 AM, right?
1 o'clock.
One.
Oh, they changed it to 1
1
o'clock,
o'clock,
okay.
The only thing I had was, received a call from a gentleman, South Minnesota Street, that is concerned about during the race season, he didn't know if he should get on the agenda to talk or what, but I said, well, I'd bring it up. As far as parking during the races, there are a number of the races where they'll park on either side of the road, both sides, even when they put the little no parking stakes out, people would still run over them and park there. And so by doing that, he has trouble, for one, getting out of his property, and two, after talking to Mitch Ulrich, fire chief, I mean, it's a safety concern too. I mean, if they would need a fire truck or ambulance or anything to go down there, it's, but
It's a
this,
city issue, not county.
but it is not in city limits. And that's the issue.
What streets are you talking?
This is South Minnesota, like where the grandstands are,
Oh, way back there.
way back there's this row of
Some of
houses.
that, yeah, but
Yep.
some of that isn't a county street either.
but the county does maintain it.
Right,
And
but
it's
it's
no,
not.
I think it's one side of the street is county and the other side is city. Because that's part, my district runs down, our district line is split on that road.
I did not even realize they were in my district.
Yeah,
Yeah, some of that, I don't know if anybody claims it.
Yeah, I think we've had that discussion.
But maybe that's something we need to figure out.
We don't claim part of that.
okay,
Who is in charge of that, because, I mean, it is a safety concern during that time, and for him, we shouldn't be obstructing the property owners there either, for coming and going, so I don't know.
You're probably gonna have to have the police put tickets on them,
Sure.
because we have no jurisdiction where
Right,
we tell
right.
people where to park on a street or a street.
So actually, if you look at the, city limit layer, well, that's one of the layers on the map and everything. But that road would be the edge of city limits, so it's I mean,
The west side would be outside and the east side would be inside.
Yeah.
Correct.
potentially, but when we do shared jurisdiction that way with Minnesota, like on gravel road for pavement, we'll take care of a certain section and then they take care of a certain section, so you're not doubling up on duties that way, you just divide it out.
Yep.
So we might have to have a conversation with the city and either figure out who's taking care of what, or come up with some sort of a game plan there, because that probably should be addressed.
He said he'd been working with Galen on it, and
Yeah, just because we do the snow removal doesn't mean.
Well, we should be doing snow removal on our roads, but
so I guess we need to look into that somehow.
I could make a contact, I got,
You wanna do that?
yeah,
Go for
on the city council, so.
it. And the other thing, you should probably talk to the fair.
The fair board, yeah.
And this guy who said he did not wanna raise a stink to the fair board, or like he was complaining about the races or anything like that, you know.
But I think it's the fair
It's-
board has some
Yeah.
authority
Yeah.
over.
well,
Yeah.
they might be able to help and do some stuff, but I don't know that they wouldn't have authority.
We wouldn't be able to force anything, so some,
Well, who puts the signs up to don't park? It isn't
Police, I think.
see,
Yeah, I think that's city cop,
yeah.
City cop?
I believe.
Well, then,
He said he talked to the city police and they said it's a county issue, and then he talked to Roger Fisher and he said it's the city's problem, so. I don't.
Same problem.
Yeah.
Cities.
No one wants to take ownership.
So, we might need to figure that out,
At some point in time, someone's gotta take ownership of it.
so.
You wanna check into that, John?
He was just getting the
Yeah.
conversation started before the summer came along.
Yeah,
so.
no, that's fine.
Good plan to.
Anyway, that's all I have, so.
Josh, did you have anything?
We attended, Kyle and I attended the economic development lunch, and just kind of a networking thing, but some good things were discussed about, where we should be looking for, potential, bringing businesses into the county kind of things, what type of industries we should be looking for based on our labor force and things like that, so, I mean, it was a good meeting, got a lot of good information from it, so, other than that, there really wasn't a lot for me.
Congress.
Add on to that, at that meeting, there was,
in there, do you know? Sure, you can get in there.
there was a study done by a group associated with UNI, I don't have the name in front of me here. Bring those papers, but, it did look at, workforce, and based on that shows kind of some possibilities of what industries or what businesses would be potentially enticed to come here because of having available workforce, so. I saw a lot of connections between being on workforce board and that already, and that was good, but yeah, definitely beginning stages of those conversations and, just good information.
They had hired, it was, wasn't it you and I to do a study, I believe it
Yeah.
was, to do a study on,
I think there is some meeting for the group though too. but-
Yeah, it was part of you and I know that much, that they did a study, with all the businesses and things like that, figured out, you know, what workforce we have, you know, the primary amount of our labor that live in the county, you know, and what would cause them to move to a new job, things like that, that they kind of fall into that study, so.
Good. Tuesday night, we had a meeting on the ambulance service, and we got our preliminary budget done, so Phil's gonna bring it in. And then Friday, Phil and I met with the hospital, and we talked to them about the ambulance service. We're gonna try and work together, and they're gonna see if they can fund a little bit of it too for a year.
Yeah,
to get
'cause
it
they
started.
They were helping, like, was it 100,000 or something?
That's about what it's coming out to, yeah.
Yep.
So they're gonna continue for at least the first part of the year, so that we can get this ball rolling and
Yeah.
get started. so
Should
that
be
we-
a longer term than that.
Yeah, well, we're gonna work on it. And, that was 2 meetings, and then we're gonna work on the bylaws for the EMS. And I went to North Iowa Regional Transportation Board, and we looked at some things about what we're spending money on in the county and the city of Algona on roads. And also went to the hazmat meeting, North Central Regional Emergency Planning District Committee meeting in Mason City. And that was on hazmat, and a lot of it was on getting grants and filling out grants. And I'm gonna make a suggestion that who's ever on emergency management also be on the regional district planning committee, because it holds meetings the same day, so.
Oh, really?
You just as well make one trip to Mason City instead of 2. So I just stayed and went to both of the meetings, which worked out fine, and I didn't know anything about it until she didn't send the email out until 4:30, and we had a meeting the next day. And, what other meeting? That was about it. Oh, we have a drainage meeting coming up on Wednesday. And can't think of any other meetings I went to last week. It seems like I was to a meeting every day, but just about.
That time of year,
Yeah.
nothing better to do but have meetings.
No,
Too
I
cold
think
out for
there is.
anything else.
I was meeting out last week.
Well, 3 of us will be at ISAC too, tomorrow, on Thursday.
Anything else to come before the good of Cassuth County?
Phil just sent an email with a press release about EMS. So, Tammy, does any of your information contradict what we had talked about as far as the timeline?
It might contradict everything.
Well, that would probably be important to go over before this gets sent out then.
I will meet with you afterward. I wanna talk to about one of his appointments, because I gotta ask a question and it's more for him than me. So I'll talk to Carter after the meeting in a minute. And anything else? Hearing none, it is 11:05 or 6:05. And motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're done. Thank you. I don't know, the trouble with getting money from